How are your 2026 scrapping goals going so far? Hi, this is Kim with Mom's Creative Moments. Welcome back to my channel. I am curious how your scrapbook resolutions are coming along. It's getting towards the end of January. We got about one more week of January. How are you feeling? If you need more inspiration, I have a fantastic, fast and fun scrap challenge coming in February, and I would love for you to join us. We're going to do a layout every other day. So it's going to accomplish 14 layouts for you if you keep up with me. And we are going to do lots of prizes and lots of fun. There's videos that accompany each of the challenges in case you get stuck and need a little assistance. Or you can interpret the sketches however you like. I would love for you to come and join us. Be sure you take a look in the description of this video. That's where you're going to find a link to the registration for that scrap challenge. And I look forward to seeing you. Today we are going to go ahead and get started on my Yellowstone, South Dakota trip that we took last summer. We've done the title page. We did that a couple of weeks ago. And today we're going to get started on our trip. And it was super fun and fabulous. I keep stumbling over my words tonight. So we are going to do virtual crop sketch number 4, or my interpretation of that. And we're going to create the first 2-page layout in that album. So I'm excited to share that with you. Let's check out my workspace and we'll get started on that. All right, so here is my workspace for today. We are going to get started working on the Yellowstone, South Dakota album. We did this title page a couple weeks ago, and we're going to work on my first layout in this album today. And we're going to base this one on challenge number 4 from the January virtual crop. And it's going to be pretty close to, my plan right now is that it will be pretty close to this, this layout. We're going to do a couple things a little different, but I think it should work pretty well. So what we're going to do, and I'm just noticing a small change that I'm going to have to tweak in my head, so bear with me here just a second, because I hadn't really discussed this with my brain beforehand. But so these are the papers we're going to use, and I'm going to, those are the photos we're going to use, which I have not touched yet. So we're going to be editing those, trimming them, etc. in real time. Just so you all can see more of my process. And my editor will work his magic. Thank you, honey. Okay, so I have 3, and I'm getting kind of a weird shadow. I don't know if you can see that online. Maybe not. That's kind of strange. Okay. I have 3 pieces of Navy Cardstock we're going to work with today, and then this paper pack is a new one to me. I've not used it before, but this is Wandering Wild, and this came in a secret box, I think, from a couple years ago, maybe it was 2024, I want to say. If you could confirm that for me, that would be awesome. If not, then maybe you know where it came from. I do know that it did come out, it came out in 2025, so it must have been in one of our secret boxes for 2025, and I just didn't realize it. Anyway, Okay, sometimes, you know, everything all starts to blend together and I forget when things have happened. Okay, so we are going to use 2 of our blue cardstock pieces to make frames. This dark frame that goes around the outer edge here. And we are going to use the other one to punch some borders with. So let's start with that, and then we'll come back to these printed papers. I have 2 of this scenic one for a reason, which we'll discuss in a minute. And then I have the 2 pieces of this paper. These are the same paper, just flipped over. One's flipped. And then I have one of this one, which has this pretty bright teal on the back. Okay, so those are the pieces, the 5 papers that we're going to use today as far as the designer papers go. And I'm just going to set them up here for a moment until we get back to them. Okay, so let's grab, I'm going to grab my trimmer. And I want to create this outer frame that's going to go around the very outside edge of my layout here. And it's not, I just thought I would take a minute and note, this line right here, this edge of this ribbon is the center point of your layout. That's where your hinges are. And so you can see by looking at the details there that there is no frame. Like this is a 3-sided frame. This is a 3-sided frame. And so we're going to make 2 3-sided frames instead of worrying about trying to make a 4-sided one. Okay, so, and this is going to be very, very narrow, which I don't normally do, but that's what we're going to do this time around. Okay, so we want 1/4 inch. I feel like that's just so thin. But so maybe what we'll do is we'll make it 1/3. We'll make it 3/8 of an inch instead. Okay, so 3/8 of an inch. And that means that this side of my trimmer is going to start at 1 3/8 of an inch. That's a little bit tricky, but we're gonna make it happen. Okay, and then we're gonna come down here and we're gonna stop when the line on the side, it gets to approximately 3/8 of an inch. That's a tricky measurement to get to, so it's going to be a case of kind of close enough most of the time, for me anyway. Okay, then we're going to cut from that point down. And we're going to go around 3 edges to make our 3-sided frame, which means that I should have cut through. So I'm going to go ahead and cut all the way through on this edge. And this edge over here, I'm going to just grab my scissors and cut through on that edge. There we go. Okay. So now we've got one 3-sided frame. And that piece is going to be set aside. I'm going to take another piece of my cardstock. My corner got kind of munched. That's all right. Okay, and then I'm going to do the same thing with this one. We're going to go from the very edge here to 3/8 of an inch here. I'm going to turn it and go to 3/8 of an inch. turn it. And one more time, we're gonna go. And this one's gonna go all the way off the edge. Okay. Setting that piece of navy aside because it's now 1/2 inch short on both sides or both edges. Okay, so we've got those. Now I'm gonna just put my trimmer up here for a second while I grab the punch that we're gonna use. We are using the new Whimsical Scallop today. I just think this punch is really cool. One thing you should know about the Whimsical Scallop is, unlike most of our edge punches, this actually punches a full border off. So it separates from the page. This is not an edge punch. This is a border punch. Okay, and there is a difference. So, and you'll see in just a second. Line that up, scoot it through, and you can see immediately that this is a border punch. This is not punching an edge. It's punching a fully cut border. And you'll want to be careful when you use yours, because if you do this too quickly, you won't get this far edge lined up exactly. And you'll end up like I did right there with a little teeny itty bitty nub, which is not ideal, but sometimes can't be helped. So you just have to make sure you've got the back of the punch pushed all the way in, or you end up with a little bit of a notch down there on the bottom. Okay, so I'm going to punch 4 of these, and you'll notice we've got notches on this punch. The notches are there not to be annoying, although they sometimes are, but to help you line up your punch each time you slide it through, so that it's quick and easy for you to identify where to line up your design. See how that punches a little notch right there? That notch corresponds to this notch, so that you always know when you have fed your paper far enough through. Of course, if you're astute and observant and you can see really well, you'll notice that the scallop that is just before the notch is slightly different shape than the others, so that helps you line it up as well. All right. And then, of course, you get tops and you get bottoms. So you can decide whether you want to hold on to those for any reason, to use them in something else. Okay, so we've got those pieces, and we are good to go with those. 2 for each side. Okay, so we'll just set those there. Set those there. Now I'm going to grab my trimmer back out again. We're going to cut a few more pieces. So we're going to take these scenic sheets right here, and I want, these sheets are going to be 6.5 by 12. So they're already 12 this way. I need 6.5 this way. And I would ideally like to have this be the same on both designs. So, and because they're 6.5, I can't just take one sheet and cut it in half, because the design will be different, first of all, And second of all, your measurements are not gonna, you can't get two 6.5 inch by 12 inch sheets out of one 12 by 12. So we have to use two sheets, and we are going to we're going to measure this at 6.5 with these two pieces of designer paper stacked so that the design on both of them is going to be exactly the same. Okay, and these mountains are going to be kind of the focal point. This area right here will be right in the middle and a nice center. Okay, the rest of these, this nice green paper, we're going to set off to the side. I don't think we're going to use that for any reason, but see how that looks so nice, and your eye just rests right there, which is what I wanted. So nice. So that's nice and centered. Then we are going to cut, let's see. I'm going to take the bear, I'm calling this bear signs paper. I don't know if this is what this is, but that's what I'm calling it. I need a piece of this that is 1 inch. So we're going to cut this at 1 inch. And mind you, this is directional. So this is the top of my paper. This is the bottom. I'm cutting vertically through it. Okay. So I have a 1 inch that's going to be 11 inches long. So I'm going to turn this and trim an inch off. Okay. So there's my 1 by 11. Then I'm going to take this and we're going to cut one piece at 3 inches and one piece at 2 inches. So we're going to cut the first one at 3 and set that here. And then we're going to cut another one at 2 inches. All right. And then we're going to set that off to the side. Okay, so this one that's 2 inches is going to be 10 inches long. So we're going to cut 2 inches off of it. So I'm just going to measure one of the ends to 2 inches. All right, we'll set that here. This one, the 1 inch piece, I'm going to take and flip over so we see the blue side. All right, this 3 by 12 inch piece is going to stay 3 by 12. So we're just going to leave that one alone and set that one over here. All right, then I'm going to grab one of the plaid sheets, making sure that the trees are upright and the top's up here. I am then going to cut one piece of this at 4 inches. These are the ribbons now, 4 by 12, so that one's going to stay just like that. And then I need another one that is 2 inches, but I need to save this piece so that I can cut a circle from it. So I'm going to set that up there, grab this one right here, make sure my trees are going upright. And I'm going to cut another piece of this at 2 inches. Okay, saving that up there for a sec. Okay, so this 2 inch piece, we're going to cut 1/2 inch off and make it 11.5 inches. All right. And it's going to go over here. Now I have all of these ribbons. All the ribbons are cut. We need to cut a circle, and or 2 circles, I beg your pardon. So I'm going to put my trimmer away. I'm going to grab my custom cutting blades. We're going to need the blue one today. And I'm going to grab my largest of the 3 circles, circle patterns. I'm going to grab this paper here, and we're going to cut, I think I can only get 1 out of this, which is why I was trying to be careful with the other, just in case. But I think this is only going to be, I'm only going to be able to fit 1 of these on here. Let me just make sure that I'm not going to go off the paper. I'm not. Okay. So on the outside edge, we're going to cut using the blue blade, and that's going to give us a 6.5 inch circle. I'm working on a self-healing mat, so I don't have to get my self-healing mat out. All I need to do is cut my circle. And unfortunately, because of the way that this is designed, we actually do need to cut 2 full circles, because you can see that other circle underneath there. Okay, so it's not just a half of this one, it's a full, another 6.5 inch circle. And you can see that, okay, so here's where it gets a little tricky. I could cut my circle out of that other piece, no problem, right? Or I could, I think, let me see here, because of where this photo is going to sit, I could just go ahead and cut my 6.5 inch circle from here, and then I think it would work. I don't think we would see it in the layout. So we're going to try. I'm going to try it, just leaving that divot in there, because I don't think we're going to see it. And I'd rather do that than destroy the majority of that paper up there if I don't have to. Okay, so we'll save this one, and hopefully it will live to fight another day. We'll see when we put it together whether that's going to work or not. But I think it will work. I hope it will work. Cross our fingers, right? All right. If not, we'll just adjust things and make it work. We can, because we can do that. Okay, now all of these pieces that we trimmed, that we cut and trimmed, we're going to cut flags in the bottom of. You can see how these are all various lengths of flags down here. So I'm going to take these and my scissors, and I'm going to go ahead and cut flags into, I'm going to use this end because that's my trees are facing with the top up that way, just in case I decide I want to flip this over. I don't think I will, but just in case, I will still have that option if I cut the flag in the bottom. All right, so I'm just folding and putting those corners together and then cutting from the outside towards the fold. And I do it that way on purpose because then I get an even cut, and it's always, the point is always in the middle. So it works. Okay, so I just put those 2 corners together, start cutting from this corner, and I'm going up, that's about, what is that, about 3/4 of an inch? Roughly 3/4 of an inch, maybe a hair more than that. Okay. The argument could be said that I like to have a definite notch I feel like if you're not going up very far, at least a ½ inch, you don't get that definite flag notch in there. This one's going to be tricky because it's so narrow. I'm going to try though. Let's see. It's hard to do it without getting a fold in the middle. Okay, one more. All right. There you go. Okay, now we have pretty much all of the pieces that we need. I don't have this journal box, but we can worry about that when we get that far. And I have not selected embellishments, but we're going to do a couple of alterations. So I think we are ready to assemble. Okay, so the first thing that I'm going to do is go ahead and take my borders that we cut, or that we punched, and we're going to assemble these by placing them on the back of these pieces, our scenery pieces that we cut. Okay, I'm going to do that by placing this piece on my mat. And I'm placing it on my mat so that it's centered. And I'm doing that so that when I lay down my border on top of this, that it'll easily just fall into place. Okay. So I'm just going to adjust this a tiny bit. All right, then I'm going to take my repositionable adhesive and I'm going to go ahead and add repositionable adhesive all the way down. And I'm going to take my border and I'm going to place my border so that the curve is 1/4 inch higher than the edge of my paper. So the corner of my border is going to be at the 1/2 inch mark. And I think this navy paper is slightly longer than my designer paper. So let's see here. I need to just adjust it just a tiny bit. So that that corner down there goes in the right place. Okay, that'll work. Now I'm gonna turn it around just because with these sitting here, it's not sitting nice and straight. Okay, there we go. Goodness sake, come on. Okay, here we go. And again, the corner's going to go at the 1/2 mark. And my biggest worry is just making sure that it stays straight so that this one will be at the 1/2 mark down here. Okay. There we go, just like that. We're going to do the same thing with this one. All right. So now those two are done. Okay, so let's grab, I'm going to grab the title page. We're going to flip that over. We're going to start working on this side. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and grab one of my outer frames. And we're going to put repositionable adhesive. Repositionable adhesive is going to be your best friend with something like this, because you can just not stress about where your adhesive is going when you go to put stuff down, because you can rub it right off if it goes in the wrong place or overlaps in an area where you don't want it. Okay, so remember the open side's going here, so we're going to turn this. I'm going to turn this so that I can work from the outside edge towards the center. I'm going to line up this outside edge flush with the jeeping. The jeeping is that raised edge on the outside of my page. Okay, so I can slide that up nice and close. Then I can take each of these arms and make sure that they are right along the edge of my page. All right, so there's that part. Now we're going to go ahead and take circle. I'm going to take this circle right here, the whole one. We're going to go ahead and make sure my trees are pointing up. Okay, this is going to go about 1 inch in from the edge of the blue. All right, and it's going to be about 1/2 inch down from the top edge, which is going to be a little hard to see because it matches so well. So I think what I'm going to do is grab a little bit of ink and we'll darken that edge. All right, so I just have some cottage ivy. This is a nice dark green, and I'm just going to go ahead and tap my brush. This is a super fine brush, filament brush that I got. We're going to take this and we're going to just go around the upper half, just enough to kind of darken the edge. You can see I got a little carried away right here. I'm not a pro when it comes to inks, I got to tell you, but I'm trying to dabble in them more because I feel like they create such a nice effect. I want to get better at it, so I'm practicing. Okay, so it's okay that there's a little bit of a green halo around that edge. I think it'll be just fine. And it'll be enough that it separates that circle from the background, which is what I was going for. Okay, so I'm going to do the same thing with this one since I have the ink out. We're just going to go around just enough to darken that edge. I don't think we're going to see really too terribly much of it. Just in case. We'll make it well defined. Okay, so there's the other one. So this is going to go down. We said 1/2 inch from the top, roughly 1 inch between the edge of the navy and the edge of the circle on this side. And we're going to go like that. All right. Then we've got our widest ribbon, the one that was 4 inches, 4 by 12. Okay, this one's going to go right along the center. Right along the center. No, not right along the center. It's going to go just a little bit in from the center so we can see that edge. But it does come down from the very top. So we need to make sure that it's right at the top edge and roughly 1/4 of an inch from the center. That's what I'm going with anyway. All right, so we're going to go with that. Place that down. Then we're going to come in with one of our scenic borders pieces that we've created. Okay, and this piece is going to go fairly close to the bottom. Oh, you know what? I just realized this ribbon goes over the top of this. So my bad, I apologize for that. That's why we do things with repositionable when we're not positive what we're doing, right? So I'm gonna bring that up and we'll anchor it like that. This is gonna go fairly close to the bottom and it's gonna go edge to edge. So we're gonna line it up with the jeeping in the center and we're going to, hold on, I need to just trim a little bit of that punched border that's hanging over my paper. Okay, there. All right, so this is going to line up with just a little bit of definition, just enough to be able to see the edge of that punch across the bottom. Okay, and then that will go edge to edge, and this one will go back down on top of it. Okay. All right. So now we're going to set this aside for a second and we're going to work on the other side of our layout. Okay. So we're going to bring this one down. I'm going to move the photos out of the way for now because we're not going to need those for a bit. And first thing we're going to do once again is start with our frame that's going around the edge. Okay. So we're going to grab this and go ahead and get our adhesive all the way around. Well, not exactly all the way, but in different allotments all the way around. There we go. All right, and then we're going to again start from the outside edge, work toward the hinges in the middle. Okay, we're going to turn it so the adhesive side is down and go ahead and center this on the page all the way at the outer jeeping edge, like so. And then we're going to go ahead and line these arms up right on the edge of the page. All right. There we go. Okay, so then we are going to come in here with our background papers that we need. Our border. It's just like a gigantic border. Wouldn't you agree? And this is going to go in here. Now we want it to be at the same height as the other page. So we're going to, sorry, just trimming off those overhangs because the navy is a little bit wider. We're going to bring this in here and we're going to make it so that this edge is flush with the jeeping in the center, and the border at the bottom is the same height as on the other page. Okay, and if we're not sure, we can always put the pages together and just take a quick look. I think that's pretty doggone close. Okay, so now we've got our base on there. We're going to grab our circle and get some adhesive on the back. And just make sure our trees are going the right way up. This is going to go about an inch in from the edge. Not an inch in from this, from the frame, but an inch from the edge. Roughly, and about a half an inch up from the bottom. So let's see. Roughly right there. I need to make sure my trees are straight up and down. And put that circle down right there. Okay, now I'm gonna go with, let's grab all of these flags and figure out exactly where they need to be. Okay, so our widest one is gonna go towards the center. Gonna go right about there. Then we've got the 1 inch piece that's gonna go next to it. And then a 2 inch piece that's plaid will go next to that, and the other piece will go next to that. And then I'm hoping there will be a photo that's going to cover that little bit that's left of that opening right there. Okay, so let's grab, you know what? Hang on just a second. This one's going to be overlapping. So these three are edge to edge, and then that one's going to go over the top. All right, let's see how this is going to come together here. Okay, this one's going to come from the top, all the way at the top. And I'm going to move it in just a little from the edge, just because we moved the other one in just a little from the edge. And I feel like it's going to look nicer if we do that. Okay. Then, and this will go edge to edge with the other one and all the way to the top. A little bit shorter. Okay. Now we're going to take this blue one, and the blue one is going to overlap these first two, the seam right there. So it's going to go right, the seam's going to go right down the middle of this one. And you can tell if you got it right down the middle because the notch that you cut will be right where the seam is. All right. So there are our ribbons. Okay, so now we need to address our photos. So let's take a look at our pictures. I'm going to grab my photo trimmer because we're going to need to trim a couple of these down, and then we're going to need to make some mats real quick. Okay, so we planned to go ahead and barbecue some ribs while we were up there. That's one of our meals, and so these are the ribs that we bought to bring up there. I'm gonna, I think, trim them this way. Okay, so this is going to be a photo that's going to go over here, which means the picture is going to be 3 by 4. So I'm going to measure this to 4 inches and go ahead and trim it. And then we need it to be 3 inches. So we'll go like that, and like that, and we've got our baby back ribs, which we can see. Okay, so there's one. This picture is going to be this 4 by 3, but we're inverting this stack. So we're going to place this one up a little higher. But it is only going to be 3 inches, so I need to make sure, we'll have to cut Archie's tail just a little, but we're going to make this fit into a 4 by 3. Okay, and this is the 2 dogs. This is Maggie. This is her brother Archie, and he belongs to my sister. And we thought that because we were going up to Yellowstone that maybe the dogs might need some eye protection. So I bought these silly hats on Amazon, and they were just silly. Don't do that if you have a dog. I don't know. It was just dumb. And I thought it was silly. Anyway, they didn't work super well. It was just silly. Okay, this was an ice cream shop that we stopped in when we got to West Yellowstone on our way. And it was super yummy. And so we are going to, I don't even remember what it was called, but it was kind of near the entrance to Yellowstone, not too far from there. And it's called, it's something Dubai chocolate ice cream. It was right next to a gas station, but not in the gas station. If that makes sense. All right, so this is going to go above it. What I'm trying to do is make this part 6 inches. So let's see what that is going to be. 1, 2, 3, 5.5 roughly. So we can move that up. Oh, you know what? We'll just trim this one at 2 inches, and then that will make the whole thing 6. That'll work. Okay, so we'll trim this at 2 inches. Right? Because that one's 4 high, and this is 2. Then we don't have to layer or anything. Okay, so those are going to go there. This one's going to go above it, and this one's going to go to the side. And we are realigning these photos just a little, just because it's the way my pictures are lining up. So I'm making it work. All right, this guy needs a 3 by 4, so we're going to make him 3 inches this direction. Maybe we'll give him just a little more grass. He was wandering on the road, and we were in backed up traffic, as you can see the car in front, because everybody was watching the bison, which is okay to do. this guy, we're going to make this guy centered at 1.5 inches. So the bison is centered at 1.5 inches on my grid, which is what I want. I want him to be the center of the photo as I'm trimming it. Okay, so then when I turn it this way, I'm going to move my center over to 2 inches and cut at 4 total for another 3x4. Okay, so he's going to go that way. Then we are going to, clean it up just a little so I can make heads or tails of what I'm doing here. Okay, so those are going to go like that. Then we are going to have a peekaboo pocket above with a with several 4x6 photos, three 4x6 photos. Isn't that cute? Look, Maggie had her nose out the window. There she is in the back seat. And there's my husband and I hanging out. This was in his big Ram pickup. And so this one is going to be a 3x4. If I can make it a 3x4. I'm thinking that maybe it might need to be a 3.5x4, which would be okay because I have that bigger gap up there I'm trying to cover. So I think it would be all right with making that 3.5. Let's make it 3.5. We can always cut more off if we want to cut more off. Okay, I will make that 3.5 for now. It's going to go up there, and I need a peekaboo pocket for those. This is on my throwaway pile. Let me grab a peekaboo pocket from here. It doesn't really matter which direction it goes, so let's see what I've got handy here. Got a long one. I'll just do that. Work. All right, now we are ready to cut some mats for these photos. So I'm going to just place these in here so they are good to go. And these are going to go with this. Those are for that side. These are for that side. And now we just need to cut some mats. And I'm going to use, I was going to use some dark green cardstock for mats. So I need to get some. And grab my trimmer again. We're going to cut 2 at, let's see, we're going to start with cutting this at 4 1/4. Then we're going to cut this at 6 1/4. Okay, we need one of those on that side, and this one's already at 4 1/4 this way. So we're going to cut 3 1/4 and have that be, that one can go there. This is going to go to the side. And we're going to take another one of these. We're going to cut it at 4 1/4. Turn it and cut it at 6 1/4. And we actually needed that to be lower. So my bad. Okay, so we need this to be, we're going to cut this at 6, or sorry, at 3 1/4 to be another one of our three by 4. And another one. Actually, this one's going to be 3 3/4 for that upper photo that we need to mat. So all the mats are done for that side. Let's see what we've got left here. This is 3 and almost 3 5/8. Well, 3 1/2. So that means that I can cut this at 3 1/4. And we can turn this and cut this at 4 1/4. And we need another one at 4 1/4. We might be able to use some of this. So I'm going to cut this at 6 1/4, and we're going to see what we can piece together to make this work so that I don't have as many pieces left over. I'm going to do that one. Let's see what we've got here. 3, 4, 5. 5 1/2. Let's see what we can do with those. Okay, hold on. I don't normally like to piece things together, but in this particular instance, I think I'm game to see if we can make this work, because we don't necessarily have to have it whole, if that makes sense. After all, this is called scrapbooking, right? So it'll be okay if I piece it together. I'm going to mount all these photos right here on their mats. All right, those are for the right side. Now let's look at this left side and see what we can come up with. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and mount the puppies on this mat. Okay, now we've got these two, which are going to be here. Right. I think I am going to need some other cardstock. That's okay. Well, we'll get this one done. And then we'll trim that. Okay, let me find a scrap. Okay, we need this to be roughly 1.25 inches. So we'll measure this out to 1.25 inches. There we go. I love it when a plan comes together. That's what we used to say on the A team, isn't it? All right, so there's that one. And here is that other one. All right. Now, let's see how we get these onto our pages. Here's our pages. This is our front page. This is our left page, right page. Okay. Now, this one is going to go down here. This one's going to go kind of tipped out like that. That one will go right on top. And we can do our title right in there in the half circle, just like it was designed to be done right here. Okay, so that will work. And then these are going to go about like that and like that. that. It nicely covers up that divot that we had in the... Let's move this just up a little. That's supposed to be even right here, so we'll make that even and put that guy there. And then we can either write over our trees over here, or I can add a journal card there. So let's see, what do I have here? I have a little bit of green. I can just trim this up and add this in as my journal card. In fact, I might just leave that decorative edge on there and go ahead and place this down, and then I can come back with my white pen and add a journal entry there. So we'll put that guy there and get the rest of these glued in. Okay, I'm gonna just pop this guy up just for a minute because he's going a little bit crooked. And because he's crooked enough, I can see that he's crooked, and that's gonna bug me. So we're gonna straighten these out just a skosh. There we go. Okay, there's our Peekaboo pocket gonna go up there. I'm gonna leave this one straight. All right, almost there, almost there. This is gonna just be kind of off to the side there. Okay. So now the only thing we need are a couple of embellishments, and you can see they've kind of liberally sprinkled their embellishments throughout this layout. I'm not sure that I would want to be so free with my embellishments. But let's see what we can come up with for clusters and maybe let that kind of dictate how we choose to do these. Okay, so we've got Wonder, Hike, Roam, World's Okayest Hiker. Let's use Roam because we've got our Curious Bison over here. And we'll use let's use Breathe Deeply. I'll just keep it simple. Okay, so these are going to be our 3 words: Breathe Deeply, Roam, and Keep It Simple. And we're going to, let's see. Let's do this is the hardest part for me. Okay. I'm going to use these trees. Keep it simple. And for Breathe Deeply, we're going to use some trees. Okay, I'm going to grab my foam squares, and we're going to use some foam squares on here. So on the back of Keep It Simple, we want some tiny little foam squares. And I'm going to want to dust these, so let's get our no stick powder out. All right, so we're going to put this right in the middle. Right in the middle of that sticker. And we're going to bring this over here and add it in right there. And maybe we'll add a little star in there too. just for a little accent. Okay, so we gotta keep it simple. We got Rome. Rome needs one square there, square there. Do a smaller one right there. And Rome is going to go right there. And then we're going to do Breathe Deeply. And where is Breathe Deeply going to go? Maybe right up here with our title. I think that's kind of the only place that I would want something else to be, is up there. Okay. This was such a fun trip, and I am so excited that I get to share it with you. We really enjoy visiting our national parks. And so it's going to be fun sharing the Badlands and the Black Hills with you. So I hope you're excited. I hope you're as excited as I am to see how this album comes together and turns out. I think this is a good start. What do you think? I would love to hear your comments in the comments, or see your comments in the comments. Let me know what you think. All right? Thanks so much for joining me. Until next time, I hope you have many more creative moments. Enjoy your day.